All right, I'm just gonna show everyone who's already here. I have my work area. Hopefully you don't have motion sensitivities or anything like that. I'm gonna move the camera so I can show you my setup. So I have this box there that I'm going to be doing my pour painting in, and this is just a way for me to control where the paint goes, but I will move the camera permanently over when we get to that part. I just want you to be prepared beforehand. We do have some time, so if you have garbage bags or a tarp or an extra shower curtain, you can put that down on the floor or on your table, just so that adds a layer of protection to your furniture or your floor. This is a very messy arts technique, so I don't want anybody to end up ruining anything at home. Also, I'm wearing a plastic apron to protect my clothing. But if you don't have anything like this at home, make sure either that you're just very careful and you don't splash it. But if you're a little klutzy like me and you always end up with paint on yourself, you want to make sure you're wearing clothing that you don't mind if you accidentally get some paint on it. So it's like an old button down, or if you have like a cooking apron that you don't care about anymore. Or you could wear like an old t-shirt and use an old button down and just tie it in around your waist so that it's protecting your front. That would be best. All right, welcome. I will just admit people as they join us. So if I end up pausing for any reason, that is why. So I want to thank you all for joining me tonight for this painting class. It's very informal. Feel free to unmute yourself at any time to ask me a question, interrupt me if I'm going too fast. I'm hoping we'll all have fun tonight without getting too messy. I just want to reiterate that, especially for those who just joined us, you want to make sure that you're not wearing anything that you don't mind if you get acrylic paint on it. We are using acrylic paint, and acrylic paint can ruin your clothing once it's dry. It's really difficult to get off. Also, please make sure you have a tarp, a garbage bag, or a shower curtain down to protect your furniture or floor, depending on where you end up engaging in this pour painting. And it's possible that there could be some paint splatter. So just again, you just want to make sure you're protecting your clothing and your furniture. This style of painting has a higher risk of getting on your clothing or in your immediate painting area. All right, I am going to share my screen. So if you picked up a kit, this is the PowerPoint that was included in it. If you did not pick up a kit, just let me know. I can email the notes to you. So if you wanted them as reference for later, I'm happy to do that. All right, let's do this. And I'm gonna do this from beginning. All right, I cannot see the chat, so just let me know if you have questions at all. Just unmute yourself, or if you don't mind, I'll see it once I'm done talking. But welcome to pour painting class. All right, this is what we will be covering. It may most likely be a shorter class than the other painting classes I've done on Wednesdays. So we may not be spending an entire hour doing this. We're going to cover why do pour painting, why you need a medium, the essential materials, and some of the extra ones that make it more fun, and then we're going to do the actual painting. Okay, so what is pour painting? You would think that the name is pretty self-explanatory, but it's a little more complicated than that. So it's a painting technique where the medium is important to the flow and integrity of the acrylic paint once it dries. So you have to have the acrylic paint, you mix it with a medium. It makes it flow better when you're pouring it, and then the medium makes the paint not crack once it's dried, because it could be a little bit thicker on the painting surface. There are all kinds of different pouring techniques out there. We're only going to be doing one tonight. So you could essentially do the same colors, the same ratio of paint to medium, the same technique, and get slightly different effects on your surface each time, especially if you introduce like a butane torch, or if you use a old hair dryer that you really don't care about anymore. I've seen some of the artists that do pour painting on it. When they use a hair dryer, it gets paint on it. So I just want you to be aware of that. If you decide to try it, you may get paint on your hair dryer. So sometimes colors are poured directly from multiple individual cups, and then other times multiple colors are combined in just one cup and then poured. Right, well, why should you do pour painting, or why even consider it as an option? It's a lot of fun. It's different from traditional painting. You don't need the many brushes. You don't really need the palette to work with. It's fascinating. You don't need to have any kind of skill whatsoever. There's really cool techniques. You don't have to run out of ideas. There's plenty of inspiration out there too, and it's for everybody. There's because you don't need any kind of skill, anybody can do it, and there's no end of really cool effects that you can get as you're ending painting. So one of the main reason that you use a pouring medium, like I said before, is that it keeps the colors separate, but it also helps with pouring the paint out, and then it keeps the paint from cracking when it dries. Now, the supplies that you need are a painting surface, which could be a canvas. So if you did pick up a kit, you got I think it's a 7x7 canvas, but you can also use a wood panel or a gessoed board. You do need acrylic paints. And then a pouring medium is like the most basic supplies that you need for pouring painting. You do need something to mix the paint and medium together. And in your kit, I included popsicle sticks or craft sticks, they're also called that. Plastic cups that are disposable, so once you're done with them, if you want to, you could wash them out and keep them for another painting session, but they're for mixing the paint and medium together, and then adding all to the colors into the bigger cup that I included. Now, a heat gun is optional, or a butane torch or a hair dryer. You just want to make sure that you don't keep it too close to the paint when you're using it, because you will get splatters. And what the heat gun or the butane torch or the hair dryer does is it creates cells, and I'll go over that a little bit later. You do want a drop mat, tarp, garbage bag, or shower curtain, which you can get at a dollar store for really cheap. This is to protect the area that you're doing the pour painting in. A pan or container to put it in. So some artists who do pour painting, they will use a tray that has the elevated sides so that it prevents any kind of spills when they're tilting the canvas, or it captures the paint and it doesn't allow it to go anywhere else. You do want a prop to hold your painting up from your tabletop surface or the floor. And this is just to prevent it from drying attached to the ground, so that you're not ruining it once it's completely dried and you want to pick it up. Gloves, which are also included in your kit. Silicone spray, which is optional, but this helps produce cells too. And then a colander or a funnel. And I have these images down here. Pretty much shows you one of the techniques that you can use when you're pouring paint and how it turns out on the surface. So if you pour all your colors into a cup and you lay a colander on your painting surface, be it a wood panel or a board or a canvas, and you pour the paint into the colander, it kind of creates this really cool flower effect. I won't really go too much into canvas or panel board, but you can actually get really experimental about what you are painting on. Some people have used non-traditional painting surfaces. I think there was I'm trying to remember what I was looking at recently, and it was not flat at all, but the end result from their pour looked really cool. It was something 3D. It was not a canvas or a panel board, but I don't remember what it was. Sorry. Okay, there are all kinds of pouring mediums out there, just like there's a variety of painting mediums for acrylic paints and oil paints. So you just have to decide which one you like. They're all pretty similar, but except for the silicone oil, the only reason why you would want to use that is to get the little cells. And if you look in this bigger purple picture of the pour, you can kind of see the cells as those little broken up spaces of the paint. So it just creates a really neat effect in your pour painting. The pour medium that we are using tonight is apple barrel, which I think is a pretty common craft acrylic paint. So if you're familiar with apple barrel, you've probably seen the little like 4-ounce painting plastic containers. This medium can come in, I think, 16 fluid ounce, and then also it's like 54 or 64 fluid ounces. It's a huge jug. These are just some of the words that are used only in pour painting and not necessarily in oil or acrylic painting. The cells are what you can see here in this example that I've included, this image. So the way that they poured the paint and then they added a heat to it breaks up the paint in these really fascinating little, they look like cells. That's how it got its name. Dirty pour is when you pour all the colors in the cup together, which is what we're doing tonight, and then you put it on the painting surface. And then the painting ground is just another way to say painting surface. We're also doing flip cup. So we're doing a dirty pour, and then we're gonna flip the cup on top of the canvas and let the paint come out slowly. So it's really important to set up everything before you paint. Acrylic paint does dry pretty quickly, except when you layer on pretty thickly, which is kind of part of the pour process. Is you get a thicker amount of paint on your painting surface than you normally would if you were just painting with a brush. You want to make sure you use a pre-gessoed canvas or board, just because if you want all of your paint, the colors to show brilliantly through, you don't want anything interfering with that in the background. Using gesso just gives you a blank canvas to start with. You don't necessarily need water, but sometimes artists like to add some water to their pour painting. So they'll use acrylic paint, some medium, and a little bit of water. And again, I cannot state this enough. Just ensure proper protection for your clothing, your furniture, your home. I wouldn't want you to accidentally ruin anything. So if you haven't already set up your painting area, you will want to either put down a tarp, a garbage bag, use a box or a tray that has sides to it so it can capture the paint and prevent it from spreading out, or a shower curtain. You also want to make sure you use a level to ensure your work surface is level and flat. You don't want any unwanted mishaps on an unlevel surface, because the pour painting, while you don't really have a whole lot of control over it, you do want to make sure you are painting on a level surface so that it doesn't do some kind of unexpected like flow off to one side. So there are a couple different mixing ratios of paint to pouring medium. Most artists like to use a 1-to-1. Some like to do a ratio of 1-to-2 paint to medium, so they'll have more medium than paint. It doesn't really matter, so you could end up experimenting in the future if you'd like. I tried to give you enough so you could do 1-to-1. You may have a little bit extra if you decide to use all 6 colors. I am only going to use 4. So I'm going to use blue, yellow, green, and white. I'm not going to use red or black. You want to use a disposable cup, unless you have like a cup that's designated just for painting. It is going to ruin it. Once acrylic paint does dry, it's almost impossible to get off of things. You could probably scratch it off, but it's best to, if you want to keep the cup, clean it immediately after you're done using it. So what you do is you put the acrylic paint in, add the medium, mix it completely, and then let it sit for a couple of minutes. And this helps it settle, gets all the bubbles out of it. You don't want those appearing in your pour painting later when you add the paint to the canvas. So mixing can sometimes be an art in and of itself. So you just want to make sure you have a good consistency. You don't want the paint to be mostly paint and only a little bit of medium. It's very important that it's either 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 paint to medium. Okay, let's see. All right, so here's a list of some of the techniques that are out there that you can end up doing in the future. The lines are, what somebody did was they put the acrylic paint and pouring medium in a cup or in some kind of receptacle, and then they just poured it out on the surface with their hand. I've seen some people attach it to like they use a bucket with holes in it, and they attach it to rope or string from somewhere up high, maybe their ceiling, and they'll do like a swing, and it will do like a figure 8 on the painting ground. It's really cool to see. You can do drips with your cup or receptacle that you're using to pour paint with. So you can just do a little bit of paint on the painting surface, just get a little splash of color. You can start with a whole background color and just move it around with like a paddle or something, and then do drips on the background. Once you've gotten your painting on, your paint on the canvas, you can actually move the canvas to tilt the paint to do what you want. So that's another technique. You can use a funnel or a colander so you can get some really cool effects in there. Some artists like to use toothpicks to create swirls or move colors around in the painting once it's already on the surface. You can pour all colors at once. So we're going to be doing a dirty pour flip cup. So we're going to put all of our colors in the cup one at a time in the same cup. And then we're going to set the cup on the canvas and flip it. There's minimal movement where you just pretty much pour it out and you just let it be how it ends up on the canvas. There's bottom puddle pour. Try saying that 10 times fast. So you cut a bottle bottom off. You turn it upside down on the canvas surface, and then you pour the paint directly on there. And because of the raised edges of the bottle, it creates this really cool flower effect on there. And that's why it's also called a flower pour. There's a tree ring. So what you do is you pour one color at a time directly onto the canvas, and you always do it in the center. And so it just moves the colors out towards the edges one at a time. So it kind of looks like a tree ring. There's the one where the strings, so you just drag a string through whatever you've poured on the canvas to create a really cool effect. And let's see. Oh, the wing one is kind of like the figure 8. So it kind of goes off, it's symmetrical on both sides. So it kind of splits the surface into two, and you get the same effects pretty much on both sides of the canvas. And the Dutch pour is, it's kind of like the dirty pour, but you just pour directly from the cup onto the canvas, and it doesn't touch the surface of the canvas. You just pour it from kind of higher up. All right, so that was the my presentation on pour painting. I am going to stop sharing my screen here. So I really want to make sure that everybody is set up first before we end up painting. But first, I'm going to move my camera over to this little holder here so you can see how I have my area set up. So hold on one second. If you have any motion sensitivities, just look away from the camera for a moment while I move it, and then I'll let you know when I'm done. Okay, so I have my camera in place. I'm just moving the monitor so I can see if anybody uses the chat. All right, so I have a box here, and then I have some garbage bags as a liner inside my box. I have some cups flipped upside down inside here to act as a base to hold my canvas up off the surface of the box. So I don't want my canvas sitting directly on the bottom of the box because I don't want it to dry to it. I really don't care if the cups dry to the garbage bags. It's there for protection, but also helps with keeping my canvas from the paint drying to the bottom, and then if you try to rip it, you'll get some cracked paint and everything. Now I do have a plastic apron on to cover my clothing because I don't really have any old clothing. I want to make sure that I protect myself, so I'm wearing this plastic apron. And then I have this like newspaper paper covering the surface of the table back here. So I have my 4 cups, so I'm going to be mixing the acrylic paint and pouring medium in separately. So you want to make sure you mix each color separately with the medium first. We're going to do that, and then we're going to let it set for a little bit. I have my craft sticks here that I'm going to use to mix each color. And then I have an extra cup that I'm going to use to pour each color separately into the cup. So here are the colors that I'm going to be using. So at this point right now, I'm going to go ahead and start mixing my paints and the medium. Sorry guys, I wish I had some music. All right, it's important to get like a buttery consistency, so I really recommend pouring your paint in first and then a little bit of medium at a time so that you don't get a super liquidy mixture. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to add my yellow paint to this green. Okay, this is starting to look better. It's a little bit thicker, not quite as runny. So I'm getting a brighter green instead of that darker forest green that I had before. Which is fine because I really love green. That's one of my favorite colors. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now I'm going to do the yellow, and I think I'm just going to mix it in this cup because I don't really have a lot of paint here. So I'm going to slowly add the medium to this little tiny portion cup. this paper down on the table because I already spilled stuff. Ah! Oh, I forgot to put my gloves on. I'm sorry, guys. If you have gloves, you should definitely wear them. All right, now I'm doing my blue. I'm trying to get as much of it out of here as possible. Such a pretty color. I got a ton on the lid too, so I'm going to try and scrape that off. All right, I got the blue in here. I'm going to slowly add some medium. I'm not sure about photo flow. I'd have to look that up. That's a good question. This is, believe it or not, my first time doing pour painting with you. So if this is your first time, we're doing it together. Okay, I have my blue mixed pretty darn good here. I may add just a little more medium to that. I can already see some bubbles working their way out of my green and yellow, so that's a good sign. If you joined us late, I was saying that because this is a different style of painting, this class may not be as long as the other painting classes we've had in the past. So we may not end up taking the full hour. We'll see. Okay, my blue's done. Now I'm going to do my white, and that's my last color. But if you want to use all 6 of the colors that I provided to you in the kit, you're more than welcome to. You also don't have to use the same combination that I am, so you can decide which colors that you want to use. It doesn't have to be blue, green, yellow, and white. You can even mix colors if you want to. So some color theory is that if you mix blue and red together, you'll get purple. If you mix yellow and blue together, you'll get green. And depending on the ratio of blue to yellow or yellow to blue, you'll get a different kind of green. So more blue is a darker green, a bluer green. And then if you do more yellow, it's going to be a brighter green. And then yellow and red make orange. Now, if you have other colors, if you have extra acrylic paint on them, you can use that too. Just making sure that the consistency is good between my acrylic paint and my medium. So I want to make sure it's well mixed. All right, so I'm done with the white. I'm just gonna check on the colors I already did just to make sure. So my green looks good because I ended up adding a little bit of yellow to it. I had probably too much medium in there. Okay, my yellow's good. Trying to get the bubbles out. So blue needs a little bit more medium. I ran out of the smaller cups, that's why I'm using these bigger ones. So you're probably having an easier time at home mixing these. If you notice that your mixed paint and medium has the bubbles that are coming to the surface, you can either start with a fresh cup or you can decide one of the colors is going to be your base and you're going to add one at a time your colors to that cup. All right, I forgot to put my gloves on and I now have paint all over my hands, but at least it's not on me. All right, I'm going to use white as my base. So I'm going to add the other colors to my white. So I have white in this cup here. I'm going to add, I think I'll add my blue first. I'm just pouring it as much as I can directly into the center. It may get a little messy. Don't worry about perfection right now. We're just having fun and trying something new. I'll show you my cup here in a second. I wanted to make sure I get enough paint, as much paint out of here as I can. Okay. So this is what my cup looks like so far. Now I'm going to add green. I figure white's a good base, blue is good to add second, and green because yellow and blue mixed together make green. It's good to have it sandwiched in between the two. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, so again, I'm just pouring the paint in the center as much as I can. It's not perfect, but that's okay. So we're just having fun. Although, if you like yours so much, You can try and submit it, see if the DIA will put it up in their oh, that would be amazing. Okay, last color. So I have white, blue, and green in there. My last color is yellow. I just was picking up my surface a little bit. So I added my yellow here. It's just sitting on top. All right, so here, this is the end part. So I am going to do this and then flip it. I think I have it pretty much in the center. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. So I'm just making sure that it's balanced out on each of the cups here before I move the cup. It looks good. So I'm going to slowly start to lift this. Here we go. I guess I didn't have enough paint in my cup. All right, I'm going to tilt it now. If you had enough paint in your cup, if you slowly pulled it up, it should keep coming out and spread out. I guess I'll do a puddle here. I think I like the inside of my cup better than my canvas surface. Okay, now I'm going to tilt it. So I can see some bubbles coming out. So I didn't let my mixture sit long enough. So the next time I'll definitely wait a little bit longer. I don't know about you, but I think this looks really cool. I'm a little worried about the edges, but I think I'm going to just have to get over that and let it go over the edge. Okay, I'm getting some into my work area, but that's okay because I'm prepared. We definitely got flow on the backside here. How are you guys doing? Now, if you get your whole surface area covered, you can go back in and do the puddle pour so you can mix another color and then pour it in other areas on your surface, and it'll add some really cool little designs in there. Come on, get there. All right, now we're going this way. Oh, I'm so sorry if I didn't give you enough medium. I was really trying to do enough so that everyone got an equal amount. I really enjoy how this turned out here with the green and the blue. It's a really cool transition from this like yellow green into the blue area. And I have a couple cells popping up, and I think that's from air bubbles. I think we're running a little bit out of paint, and that's why it's not moving as much as it was before. Okay, I see. Yeah. It's a good learning experience. Trying to figure out the right ratio of paint to medium for sure. If you have a craft stick, if you feel confident or comfortable, you could do, or if you get a toothpick, you could do some swirls or move the paint around. I'm trying to get this moved down here. All right, I think what I'm gonna do is see if I can scrape some more paint out of that cup. But look how cool that is. I don't know if you can see it. It's probably too dark. almost have that edge there. All right, I'm gonna leave it. I think it looks cool. Feel free to turn on your video if you want to share how yours turned out. I would really love to see. Ooh, look at that. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at that.
Which way is up?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
I don't mind the bubbles though. I kind of like the bubbles.
I kind of like the bubbles too, actually.
I don't see it as a
Ooh. Oh, those are fantastic.
nice color choices.
Yes, I love that. Those are really nice. I like your yellow heart in the middle. I don't know if you intended that, but it looks really cool. So then I would suggest at this point, if you're not going to do anything more to it, make sure you put it in a spot that's out of reach of any pets or anything so that it can dry. And it may take, I think I read it could take about 3 days for it to dry. I know I'm a mess too, and I'm so happy that you enjoyed it. It doesn't really take much skill, but and it doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot involved. It's mostly mixing, so you just I think I didn't get the ratio perfect either, so I think for next time we'll focus more on that. But it was definitely a lot of fun, and not what I expected at all. I wasn't even sure how this was going to turn out, but I'm really pleased with mine, and I hope you are too.